So, hi everyone. My name is Gao Xiang, and I will be your TA for this mission control, which is testing and beyond. So here are the links for the reference notes, presentation, tutorial, and the tutorial step-by-step test get. So here is the agenda for today's mission control. First, I will be doing a short introduction of myself, and then I will be also explaining why we need testing, and I will be also talking about what is testing. And inside what is testing, we will be giving a short introduction of.
You can fill up the form later and just leave it on the table.
Sure. Thanks. So I will be talking about what is testing and how are we going to do the Google App Engine testing. And we will be going through a short tutorial, and that's about it. So this is who I am. I take Orbital last year, and the project I have done is called HackerDo, which is a member management system for hackerspace. And on the right-hand side, you may recognize one of your TA and advisor, who is yours. So we have been together, has done a project called Big Spoon, which is for CES 3216. So first topic is why do we need testing? Before I continue, maybe I can ask any of you have taken 2103 before coming to the mission control? Okay, so most of the content are from 2103. If you feel bored, maybe you will learn it in 2103 again. So why we need testing? The first part is we need to write good code. What do we mean by good code? Is meaning that you want to reduce the bugs inside your code. You want to follow good standard, and you also want to control your code. What do we mean by control your code? It means that once you write the code, you know what it does, and it does what you want it to do. So in order to control your code, you will be needing some tools. In this case, we'll be using the test case. And at last, it also help you to save the cost. As you know that if you detect a bug in the early stage, for example, in the design phase, it's much easier for you to fix it. But if you only detect the bug inside after you deploy the product, it will cost you a lot to fix the bug. So here is the basic concept of testing. On the left-hand side, which is a big overview of what we are doing for software engineering, including analysis, which meaning you want to analyze your target audience before you design a product. And then coming to the design phase, where I think most of you have already done the design of your product, and you also need to implement your product. At last, you will do a quality assurance, which meaning that make sure that your product is working well. So today we'll be focusing on the quality assurance, and we'll be focusing on a small part of the quality assurance, which is called developer testing. Here are some keywords of the technical terms we'll be talking about today. And inside the link I provided earlier, you can find all the details of each of the terms I will be explaining later. So for example, the first, the first term I will be talking about is stub and mock. These are the best helpers for you if you are in a project that you need to develop different components individually with different people. For example, if you have a project that have two modules and they may rely on each other, but during the development you may not want to wait until the other finish his job, you can start your development. So you will use stub and mock to mock the service that the other is going to be provided to you, so that you can continue your development. And the second term I will be talking about is the way you can testing. For scripted testing, it meaning automated testing. This is useful when you already know where you are going to test. And then the other way is manual testing, which means you test on the fly. So that means you browse a website and then just browse around and fill some hidden, or you don't know what characters, and then to test whether there is any bug in the product or not. And for black box and white box testing is usually differentiated by the way how the product is delivered to you for you to test. For example, if the source code is available to you, it's white box testing. But if you only know the requirement of what to test, is a black box testing. For TDD is a term that is called test-driven development, but as you know, usually we will be writing our code first and make the product work first, and then we will test our product. But TDD goes the other way around. That means you write your test first, and then based on your test, you pass your test, and then refactor your code, and if there is new requirement, you change your test case first before you do any new feature. So for the developer testing is the process for us to testing our own code to fulfill the goals I have set earlier, so that you can control your code and also reduce the cost. For the validation and the verification part is a differentiation between whether you you have built the correct product, or the product you have built is what is functioning as it is designed. So after all this, we will do a product testing, which is us usually asking for another testing company or the customer to verify that the product you have built is suitable for their usage. So after you have tested all your code, usually you will run a coverage program for you to know that how well your test is. For example, maybe your test must be achieve certain percentage, for example, 80% to be acceptable for others. And there are some test case design techniques to help you to reduce the time and the effort you need to write the test. So that, because it doesn't mean that the more tests you write, the better your product is. And even if all the tests pass, it doesn't guarantee that your product is free of bugs. And at last, there is continuous integration, which is a best practice in the software engineering industry to allow you to automatically build your product, so that you know that if there is anything has been broken, you can know quickly and easily find the person who is responsible for this. So these are all the terms I have been explaining about the testing. So relating back to what we are doing in Orbital, most of you are using Google App Engine. So we'll be going through 3 steps. The first step is called local unit tests. You can refer to the link below for more details. It's really about to test the functions in your hyperfunction in your code, and also the model in your the App Engine model. And for handler testing, is really testing about how are you going to route between different URLs, and how is your response according to the URL is correct or not. And at last, we also can do some browser testing, meaning you automatically start a browser and browsing the website, the product you are building, to see whether it's as what you expected. So here is the part that you should be already setting up your environment. Yeah, all the people have done this step. Or if there is any problem during the setup, maybe I can try to troubleshoot for you.
So what I suggest is because the setup takes some time to do. If you haven't done it yet, you can do it after the tutorial is over, and then you can step through the guide again with hashtag.
Yeah, sure. So I will just go into the repository.
So get your font size and then large.
Okay. It's okay. Too big. So after you have been cloning the repository into your local, you should be able to do a checkout to the steps that I have been tagged. So if you go to step X, you can run the test examples. For example, you can go to the test examples. You can run the test by NUS test. But before that, you need to source your. I assume you already created your virtual environment for Python, so you need to source the environment. Then you can go to test examples. You can run the NUS test. It will show you the results of all the tests. So what it is testing is a unit test. Basically, it tests whether the random module inside Python has been given you the correct result. For example, in the test shuffle, it will test whether after shuffle there is only 10 elements inside the sequence. And for the test choice, you will test whether the choice will return a number from your sequence. Something like that. So that's all about the environment setup part. Maybe I can go through with you the sorry. So I can go through with you the tutorial I have created for you during the mission control. There is a post as well. If you want to do it offline, you can follow the step-by-step post. Here is the post, and I will be going through step by step now. And if you want to do it offline, also it's also okay. So the first step is I have downloaded a sample application from Google App Engine repository, which is a guestbook application. What it does is only allow you to sign the guestbook as a user. So first you can check out to the step. This is step 0. You can go to the guestbook folder, and then you can start your App Engine here. So you will see this is the example provided by Google, so you can sign your name, and you can also log in and sign as a login user. So today we'll be testing this application. The to start with, the first step is to test your model. So if you go through the post, you will notice that in App Engine, in the guestbook application, there is only one model called grading, and inside grading, it only have several attributes, which is an author, which is a user, and the content you want to sign on the page, and as well as the date, when did you send it. So to do the model testing, I will use pattern dot test. So here is the syntax that how you can write a dot test. So first, you can specify you want to create a new grading object, and then you can verify that the grading is created correctly, and then you can put the grading inside the database, the data store inside the App Engine, and at last you can query out the results to verify that it's actually saving correctly. So this is the example I have been provided. Then there is a practice that if you want to do, you can add a test for modify. Should I give some time to allow them to do it now or offline? You want to do it now or offline? Anyone is following? Sorry? So are you on this step already? Or you want to do it offline? Okay, I think offline.
Why don't you do at least the first test interactively?
Sorry?
Why don't you do one step together?
Yeah. So if you have already downloaded your the code in your local, you should be able to see the guestbook folder. And once you do a gate checkout to the step 1, you can open the guestbook the guestbook.py file, and then you will see the doc test example has been given inside the grading model. So you can follow the model to see what how you can add new tests. For example, you want to modify the grading object you have been created and test whether it can save correctly after you have modified the test, modify the attribute of the objects. To avoid mistakes during the typing, I have already provided the answers. So you can try out yourself first, but after you have finished your practice, you can find out the answer by going to the tag step 1 down. So after you checking out to this tag, you will notice that in your guestbook.py, I have already added the new test for the modify. So what you do is you have get the grading object from the list you have just queried out, and then you change the content into a new test, and then you will be saving it back to the database. And when you after you saving back, you will check whether the parent key of the object has been changed or not. So let's run the test to see the result. So here is the command you need for your testing. basically what it does is it will start a mock App Engine server and then run your doc test according to the text you have specified for the doc test. And then if, for example, if I change this to false, you will not pass the test. Sorry. As you can see, you are expecting a false, but whatever it returns is a true. So here is how you can do the doc testing for your model in App Engine. Any questions about this part? Okay, so I can.
You got the reading, you check the content, and then you're just doing the test at the line where the string is issued, right?
Yes, because for the deck. Yeah, I am using the NUS test framework to help you to run the test. So this doc test syntax is like you are opening a Python interpreter and enter the command, the command code inside the interpreter so that you can run the command for you. Yeah. So after doing the doc test, I can also show you how you can write a unit test. So for the unit test, which is step 2, yes.
So I just want to understand before we are doing all these things, right? What you have any testing on?
As just now I have shown you, I'm testing this application, which is a sample application provided by Google. So I think it's quite similar to the gift book application provided by the professor, right?
Based on whether it works as it's supposed to, whether it allows you to put a note on the guest book.
Currently, we haven't reached that yet. Currently, the first step is help you to do a unit testing for your model, because you should be knowing that inside App Engine, when you want to save something into the data store, you should have a model, right? So once you write a code for your model, maybe you have a text inside your model. You want to make sure that everything I created should be saved correctly into the data store. So here is the step to do a unit testing for your model. So during step 3 or 4, I think I will show you how you can actually do a integration testing about the frameworks. Yeah.
So you close the entire test in a multi-line comment?
Yes, this is a doc test for the model. So maybe I can go to the second step, which is a unit test. Because if you have done any coding in Java, that's the usual way you will do unit testing. In Python, there is a unit test framework. It's quite similar to the Java JUnit, if you are familiar with JUnit. So in order to go to step 2, you need also to do a gate checkout to the second step. And one thing I want to mention is after you have done the practice and check out the answers, you can see the difference, what has been added online, to see how you can what has been changed, so that you can compare the answer with what is the original solution here inside the post. So for second step, we are going to test a hyper method which is called getUserURL. I will show you where is the getUserURL. So here is the function. Actually, if you take a look at the function, it just does a simple thing that based on the current user, it will return a URL and the URL link text to you. So if the user has been signed in, then I will create a logout URL. If there is no user, I will create a login URL. So for unit testing, you will test whether this method has been, for example, if I'm not logged in, has it provide me a login URL? So here is what I will do for the unit testing part. So I have created a new file called test get user URL.py. If you go to this file, you will see first to start a unit test case, you need to follow some syntax. So here is the syntax. First, you need to create a class which extend the unit test case class, and inside here you can provide a setup and tear down function for your class, which for the setup is for you to before any test has been created, you will run the setup method so that you can do some initialization work before you do your test. For the teardown is for you to, after you have done your test, maybe the data is not clean, you want to do some clean up job. So here is the full code for how you can test a use case that there is no user login. The test, the get user URL method should give you back the login URL and as well as the login text. So here is what I should say as a non-login user, which the URL is this one. The URL is this one, and I should say a login. So let's run the test. You will see there is one more unit test has been passed to show you that if I have changed something inside here, maybe I add a new n after the login. If I run the test again, it will not pass, as I'm expecting a login text link rather than the wrong one I have just entered. So for step 2, there is also a practice you can try, which is ask you to write a test for the login user. I will just explain the idea how you are going to do it. You can do it offline. So as I already had the example for how do you test a non-login user. So if you want to test a login user, there is a helper method in the test in the code that help you to set a user. So if you look at the code itself, you can figure out the way how you can set a user is logged in, and then you should be asserting whether the result returned from the get user URL is really a logout rather than a login text. So, and there are some homework as well. Maybe you can try to add some unit tests in your project so that you can make sure that your code is running correctly. And besides that, so far is all about unit testing. After we come into third step, is going to be integration testing. So at this stage, we are going to do a simple routing to the URL. For example, I go to the home page. I should, if I go to the home, sorry, I didn't start the server. So if I go to the home page, I should saying the home page HTML has been rendered correctly. So how are we going to test it? We are going to also write a unit test case for the handler, but in this case, we'll be testing about the routing. So you can check out to step 3. So inside the guestbook, you have two class as request handler. A request handler is the way it is a class that help you to receive the HTTP request, and based on the request parameter and the content, you process your request and gather some data from your database or data store, and then return the HTTP response to your client. So here we have a get method for main page, which meaning when you go to the home page, which then the get method will be called, and you will be, if you look at the code, you will be returning all the greetings you have already stored in your data store, and returning a HTML page in to the client. So how are we going to test this is we also write a unit test, which I call test handlers. If you look at the code, it also have a startup and tear down method, which help you to initialize and clean up the test. And there is one function called test main page no login. So as I just now showed you, you have a helper method. You can set a current user to none. That means there's no user login, and then you can use your test app to route to the home URL, and you will receive a response here. And you can use assert to check whether your response is 200 status, and the content type is really a HTML page, and inside your body there is the string that you require to be there. So for example, if I change the status OK into another one, so when I run the test, it will not pass because the HTTP status for OK is 200. So you can go through the post for more details about how each part of the function inside the test case. And there is also a simple practice for you to do. So I have demonstrated one example of how you are going to test get function, get method in your main page. There is also a guest book, which is when you sign the guest book, you will do a post request. So you may want to find out how you are going to do the test for post. And after you have done all this, you can check the answer by going to step 3 done. And you will see the answer there. Yeah. So far, I think it's very boring. But coming to the next page, next step, we'll be doing integration testing. And the browser testing, which means that you can actually automatically start up a browser for you to test your website. So first, let me just demo how it works.
Everyone following, can play with the speed of the tutorial.
So first, you need to check to the first step. If you look at your directory, you will notice there is a new folder called features. In this case, I'm using Python BDD behave, using a Python framework for you to do the testing, which is called behave. So to use behave, you need to write a feature documentation. This is just plain English with some keywords so that you can gather the information from this documentation during your testing. For example, in this case, the scenario is I want to I want to sign the guestbook without login. So what I should do is I should first, given the condition that there is no user login, then I go to the home page. Currently, I set the home page into this URL, and then I will see the main homepage HTML has been rendered. Then I should I can sign a text inside the text box there, and then I should see the text I have just signed appear on the web page. So let's run the test. You can just run behave-v. So you will notice browser has automatic started, then but it's very fast. So what it does is, as what I have just shown you, you go to the URL, type in a message you specify, and then click the submit button and verify that whether the new content has been added to the page. So here is the result. It's successfully signed. So if I change something, for example, if I change this to demo 1, then let's run it again. So you will see it's not passed because the new after you sign the new content, it doesn't match to what you already specify as the input. So this is about the browser testing. For this part, you also have a small practice if you want to do. Just now I have shown you how you can test with a non-login user. You can also test with a login user, but this one is quite tricky because when you want to log in within the browser, you need to, let me start the server to explain. So if you go to the home page, let me log out first. Okay, so when you want to log in inside the browser, you will redirect into a new page, and you need to input your user ID here and user email here, and click a login button. And after that, you are logged in. So this is the challenge at how you are going to use the API provided by Behave and Selenium to do what we have doing manually here. So I have also provided the answer. You can check out to the step 4 done. So if you run it, you can see you will go to the page, log in, and then sign. If you view the features, there is a new scenario. So what I will do is given the user has been signed out, I go to the URL, I sign in as a user, and I log out. But what Behave help you to do is, inside the feature steps folder, you need to translate the feature document into the actual code to help you to do the automation of how do you start the browser and everything. So here is how do you translate your plain English into the code that help you to do the testing. For example, this is a text you saw in the feature documentation. User has been signed out. So you need to call your browser to go to the home page and then to make sure that there is no login. Yeah. And for example, if you want to go to the URL, you will call your browser to go to the URL. And the browser we are using is inside the feature environment. So we are using a testing tool called Selenium, which you can start your Firefox here. For more details, you can look into the code itself. It has the command there. So that's all about how we can test a simple application within the Google App Engine. So at last, I will just show you something that you might be interested. So because after you have done testing, you may want to know how is your test being written. So for example, I have set up 2 free CI server for my for the demo application I have been running. So yeah, so you will automatically run the test script you have specified and provide the information of whether it's successful or not. And then you can, if you have a GitHub account, you can put the batch into your GitHub repository. So for example, you can see on my GitHub account, my build is passing and the coverage is 100 because it's a simple application. Yeah. So any questions?
Can you say more about coverage? How do you determine core coverage?
This one I use this. For Python, there is a Python coverage tool. It's also inside the requirement I have. During the setup guide, you will see how you can set up the coverage tool you will be using for the testing. So this coverage just help you to, based on your test, to verify that, for example, you have 100 lines, how many lines you have been hit during your test. So for example, why my test is 100% is because all the lines inside the guestbook, the small application has been all hit during the test. That's why it's 100. So, but achieving 100% doesn't mean that your application is free of bugs, because testing can only make sure that the test case you write is correct. It works as what it is expected, but it doesn't mean that there is no bug inside your code. So testing is a good way for you to control your code, but it doesn't mean that once you write the test, there is nothing need to change. Once the test pass, everything is fine. Yeah. I think that's all about the testing, and that's all the tutorial and the content I can share with you. So if you have any other questions regarding to testing and the environment setup, we can discuss offline or later. So I can stop the sharing.
Any questions for?
I can go to the Q&A session.
Well, those of you who are interested, maybe we can give the tutorial a try, especially if you haven't set up your environment, maybe you can do that now. And you can let us know, so gosh, I can stay around if you're not interested in doing it. If you would rather work with your partner on your progress towards your third milestone in the middle, that's fine too. Because we don't like to make sure that our projects run really well. But let's first thank Josh for his tutorial.